reality you know, the one that feels so solid and predictable, is really just one page in a book with infinite pages. Well, today we're going to turn that page. We're diving into the strange, profound, and very controversial world of Carlos Castaneda, a world where the line between what's real and what's possible just kind of melts away.
So picture this. You're standing in a vast, silent desert as the sun goes down. The world you trust, the logic that guides every single thought. What if it's all just one interpretation of what's out there? A Yaqui shaman named Don Juan would actually call this a description. And here's the kicker. He claimed it was only one of many.
And that one simple idea, that's the key. It's the doorway into a completely different way of seeing, well, everything. It's the very foundation for this whole journey we're about to take, a journey into what Don Juan called a separate reality.
So our story kicks off in the summer of 1960. A young UCLA anthropology student, Carlos Castañeda, is out in the desert doing what he thinks is pretty straightforward academic fieldwork. But the man he's about to meet, he's going to completely shatter not just his research project, but his entire view of the world.
Now, you've got to understand, this wasn't just a meeting between two people. This was a full-on collision of realities. You had Castaneda's world, all academic rigor and hard evidence, slamming headfirst into this ancient indigenous way of knowing, one that runs on completely different rules, like feeling and direct perception. That first meeting with the shaman, Don Juan was so unsettling. Castaneda himself called it disturbing, that it sparked an apprenticeship that would last for over a decade. In fact, it was so intense that Castaneda actually quit at one point. He just couldn't handle it. But something pulled him back, years later, to finish what he started. And right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the conflict. On one side, you have Castaneda, who comes at the world with theories and logic, what he called transcendental knowledge. And on the other, you have Don Juan, teaching direct knowledge, which is all about an immersive, direct feeling of the world that, frankly, logic can't even touch.
So what does a shaman teach an anthropologist? Well, the lessons weren't about, neatly cataloging plants for a research paper. No, they were about systematically taking reality as we know it and pulling it apart piece by piece, starting with the very meaning of the word see. This one question became Castaneda's obsession. It's the absolute core of everything in a separate reality. But let me tell you, when Don Juan talked about seeing, he was not talking about using your eyes. Don Juan's response here is just perfect. He's not trying to be mysterious or keep secrets. He's pointing out a basic limit of our language. Some things you just have to experience. You can't explain them. The gap between knowing something in your head and feeling it in your bones is just too big.
Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial idea, the difference between looking and seeing. Looking is what we do all day long. We see a tree and our brain immediately goes, yep, that's a tree, and slaps a label on it. But seeing, oh, that's something else entirely. That's about perceiving the raw, buzzing energy of that thing before our mind has a chance to name it.
To explain this even more, Don Juan used these two incredible concepts. Just picture the tonal as a small island. It's everything we know, everything we can name and organize, our whole world. But the Nawal? That's the vast, unknowable, mysterious ocean of pure energy that surrounds that little island. And a warrior, or shaman, learns how to navigate both. So, if our world is just a tiny island in a huge ocean of mystery, how are we supposed to live? How do we act? Don Juan's answer is this amazing, paradoxical idea, controlled folly. It's basically the art of living your life with total commitment, as if everything matters, while knowing deep down that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. And his quote just nails it perfectly. It's about taking total responsibility for your choices, but without the heavy burden of ego or regret. When you're facing infinity, the outcome isn't really the point. This, right here, is the sorcerer's path to true freedom. By the way, if you're getting something out of this deep dive, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It really does help us keep making explainers like this one. All right, now we have to talk about how he achieved these states of perception, because, well, it's really controversial. Don Juan used what he called plants of power, things like peyote. But let's be crystal clear, this wasn't about recreation. The whole point was to violently shatter Castaneda's rigid, everyday version of reality. And honestly, the whole thing with the plants, that's just the tip of the iceberg. From the moment these books were published, they sparked this huge debate that's still going on today. Was this groundbreaking anthropology, or was it just brilliant fiction?
I mean, the biggest question that people have been arguing about for decades is, did any of this really happen? Was Don Juan even a real person? We still don't know for sure. But here's the thing, whether it's fact or fiction, the impact is undeniable. Castaneda's work basically launched the whole neo-shamanism movement and really pushed some researchers to try a more immersive kind of work.
But in the end, maybe it doesn't even matter if it was literally true, because the message of the journey is still incredibly powerful. It asks us, it dares us to question the very foundations of what we call real.
And that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? The path of the warrior, as Don Juan lays it out, is about having the courage to intentionally step off that safe little island of the known and dive headfirst into the vast, energetic, and mysterious ocean that lies beyond.
So I'll leave you with the question to think about. Of all the ideas we explored today, seeing versus looking, the tonal and then a gall, or that wild concept of controlled folly, which one challenges your own view of the world the most? I genuinely love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Thanks for watching.